While he may have achieved peak levels of physical and mental conditioning through decades of vigorous training, it doesn't change the fact that Batman still doesn't have any superhuman powers. He's just a man at the end of the day, and sometimes that just isn't enough to get the job done. 1991's five-part Venom storyline, written by the masterful Dennis O'Neil with wonderful artwork by Russ Braun, perfectly illustrates Batman's limitations as a superhero. I think it shows him at his most human, his most vulnerable. It depicts him failing in colossal fashion, with a literal obstacle blocking his path, and goes into how easy it would be, even for someone as virtuous as him, to find it necessary to cut corners, to ensure failure like that never happens again. As its title would suggest, this storyline introduced the highly potent and addictive steroid compound Venom into the DC universe. The drug, in an injection form, would later be used by Bane to give him the strength required to utterly demolish Batman in his own Batcave, and break his spine in half like a candy bar. If you want the deets on Bane's origins as a villain and the events that transpired in the Nightfall story arc, there's a lot. Check out the separate video review of it I did on the channel a while back, maybe a year or so ago, I forget at this point. In the comic I'm looking at today, spanning issues number 16 to 20 of Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, I noticed in my most recent reread that apart from the title, Venom is not referred to as such throughout the entire story, not even once. All of the characters simply call it the drug or pills. I found that interesting. I don't know if this was an intentional decision by O'Neil or just a coincidence. Maybe the title of the storyline came afterwards. They didn't know what they were going to call the drug as the story was being written and drawn. Either way, what it's called is not important. What it does, that's what really matters. Our tale begins with Batman on the trail of a young girl named Sissy Porter, who had been kidnapped and taken to an abandoned water tunnel on the brink of collapsing. With a lantern in hand, the Caped Crusader goes in after her, listening for a child's voice, and finds her tied to a chair with the water level rising around her. Parts of the tunnel crumble down and encapsulate Sissy with chunks of rock, as water continues to rush in. As Batman frantically moves the rocks, he promises Sissy that he will get her out. He never breaks a promise to anyone. The stones seem to get larger and larger, heavier and heavier, until the last one is too big for him to move by himself. The page that shows Batman attempting to lift the boulder numerous times is great. The artwork by Russ Braun expertly conveys the urgency, cutting back and forth between Batman's desperation and Sissy's terror. The way it's laid out is both beautiful and bleak, comic book storytelling at its finest. Batman dives under the water, attempting to use it to help lift the boulder. Objects submerged are lighter than they are on land after all. He finds his grip not strong enough as his gloves slip against the sides of it. After a while, Batman surfaces, and the consequence of his continued failure reveals itself. Sissy has drowned. He was too weak to save her. Back at Wayne Manor, he tells Alfred all about it, that he had used his expert detective skills to track her down. He had analyzed the mud on the boots of one of the kidnappers' known associates to find the abandoned tunnel, but these skills meant nothing in the end. The Dark Knight goes to the home of Sissy's father, Dr. Randolph Porter, to break the sad news to him. Dr. Porter doesn't seem all that shook up about it, which is odd. He says Sissy had a short but happy life. Batman has to remind him that she died alone, in terror and pain, not able to get the image of her face out of his mind. Dr. Porter explains that the kidnappers were after the new designer drug he has created, pills that alter molecular structure and increase human potential. He says if Batman had taken these babies tonight, his daughter would still be alive. Bats refuses to accept the Venom capsules. An armed thug barges into the house and opens fire on the two of them. Batman knocks him out and again sees the face of the deceased sissy while doing so. The Dark Knight goes after the thug's partner, jumping onto the roof of their getaway truck. In the rain, though, and after it smacks into the side of a telephone pole, Batman's grip begins to weaken, and he slides off of it, allowing the criminals to escape. In the Batcave, frustrated, Bruce tries to deadlift the weight he estimates the boulder blocking his path to Sissy would have weighed, 630 pounds. Attempting it, he tears his right deltoid muscle. Ouch. Bruce refuses to rest until the ones responsible for Sissy's death face justice. He tracks the thugs who had attacked the Porterhouse to their run-down apartment. With an injured shoulder, the felons make quick work of him, though. They double-team him. Batman is struck in the shoulder with a lamp and thrown out the window. He tries to break his fall, grabbing onto the fire escape, but the strength in his one arm diminishes, and he hits hard on the ground. Bruce is treated at home by a doctor for a couple days. He dreams of Superman proclaiming himself the Man of Steel, soups his head, then suddenly transforms into Sissy's, and then Alfred's with her body. They call Batman the Man of Tissue Paper. Struggling to accept his physical limitations, Batman returns to Dr. Porter and takes a month's worth of Venom pills. He's told to consume one each day to maintain their effects. On them, Bruce is easily able to lift the 630-pound loaded barbell up over his head. He then goes to the local bar the two criminals who had gotten the better of him frequent and roughs them up like a couple of jabronis. A new feeling rises from the base of his spine and fills up his lungs. Batman starts laughing like a madman, overjoyed with his victory. In issue number 17 of Legends of the Dark Knight, which has, without a doubt, the most memorable cover of the entire storyline, with an unhinged Batman mugging for the proverbial camera, we fast forward a bit. Bruce has been on the super steroid for the last 3 months, increasing in strength and size. Alfred has grown concerned. Bruce has stopped all of his studying and experiments, focusing only on his weightlifting. Everything that had made Batman strong before, his encyclopedic mind and detective prowess, has shrunk, and I assume other things have as well. Bruce has reduced himself to a simple meathead whose brains are in his biceps. His strength has become his only obsession. All he does is pick heavy stuff up and put it back down. Steroid abuse is like any other form of drug abuse. As healthy as some of these people may look on the exterior, their insides are taking a shit-kicking. I've worked in the fitness industry for close to 15 years now. I know a few guys who have taken a lot of steroids over a long period of time, a witch's brew of steroids and growth hormones. Common side effects I have seen include mood swings, severe face and back acne, balding, joint issues, damage to the liver, and damage to the heart, increasing the chance of heart attack, heart failure, and stroke. Some of the guys I know in their 30s are on daily heart medication now due to the irreversible damage they have caused to their bodies. They have reduced their life expectancy and only have a few bulging muscles to show for it. Bruce calls Alfred weak like all the rest for worrying about him. Alfred quits, leaving Bruce to rot with his delusions at the manor. Batman goes to see Dr. Porter again to get more Venom capsules. Not only is the doctor supplying him with drugs, but Batman has grown dependent on him for criminal leads as well. When the hero arrives, he is also greeted by a retired Army general named Timothy Slaycroft, who has come for Batman regarding a top-secret project related to national security. Batman is clearly on edge due to a withdrawal he is suffering, barely listening to what the general is saying. He only cares about getting more pills from Dr. Porter. Porter gives him more pills, but says he's been busy and has only had time to make 4 of them, hoping that's okay. His leads have also dried up, and Batman will have to go out into the city to find his own bad guys. He decides to once again go after the same 2 that had attacked him and the Doctor the night Sissy was killed. After Batman departs, we learn that Dr. Porter has been feeding the Caped Crusader leads given to him by those 2 criminals, named Patsy and Brew, who are, in actuality, his colleagues. General Slaycroft has been financing his production of Venom, and Porter had orchestrated the death of his own daughter to subtly manipulate Batman and use him to eliminate all of the other drug pushers throughout Gotham, his competition. Later in the story, it's revealed that Dr. Porter has become addicted to another drug of his own design, one that greatly increases his intelligence but reduces his emotional responses, hence why he couldn't care less about Sissy's demise. What a despicable man, but a great villain for this storyline, a genius-level drug chemist. Batman goes to the apartment of Patsy and Brew and suspiciously finds them both shot dead. The perpetrators are seen getting into a car outside, and the Dark Knight rips the fridge out, lifts it up over his head, hurls it through the apartment's wall, where it then lands on and crushes the getaway vehicle with the men inside. Fucking bonkers. Don't worry, the 2 men aren't dead, but they probably wish they were. Bats runs over, rips the car door right off its hinges, and starts interrogating the wounded criminal, sporting a frightening smile the entire time. The other crumpled-up culprit lifts his gun with a weak and shaky hand, attempting to take Batman out. That is, until a machine gun goes off in the dark, kills the man, and another mysterious vehicle speeds off. Batman feels a disconnect from his city, one he has never felt before. It makes him uncomfortable. When he returns to the Batcave, he finds himself unable to lift a mere 690 pounds on a barbell. I know, right? What a weakling. He reaches for more Venom tablets in his coat, but realizes he has run out, throwing a fit. He barges into Dr. Porter's house and demands for more, but finds the Doctor and the General waiting for him. Dr. Porter tells Batman that he has to earn the pills. He has to kill Captain Gordon, who has been snooping around and getting in the way of the Venom experiment's progress. Batman promises Dr. Porter and General Slaycroft that he'll kill Gordon and bring them his head on a silver platter. He doesn't know if he's saying those words or it's the steroid-fueled rage talking. Batman pounces at Gordon while he's out walking his dog near his house after a long day's work. He explains to the police captain that he's been sent to kill him by Dr. Porter and an army general named Slaycroft. Gordon asks Batman if he's okay, and the Dark Knight doesn't really know anymore. He bursts out in anger and says he's going after his manipulators. If he fails, he wants Jim to hit them in the morning. Porter and Slaycroft have hastily packed their things and are off to the airport to leave Gotham in an hour. The Dark Knight heads them off and says they're coming with him to police headquarters to confess to their crimes. Batman smacks around the Doctor, grabbing him by his coat collar. Porter is able to play mind games with Batman, though. He pulls out a large bag of Venom capsules and frees himself from the hero's grasp by throwing them into some nearby bushes. Batman, pitifully, on his hands and knees, searches for the pills to feed his addiction. However, after holding them in his hand for a minute, he finally sees the absurdity of what he's doing. He pours all of the pills out onto the ground. Hopefully, no animals find them. Bruce contacts Alfred by payphone and, in desperation, with tears running down his face under his cowl, asks for his help. He wants Alfred to lock him inside the Batcave for a month so he can shake his dependency on Venom. Bruce would seal up the exits to the cave with brick. All of the other ones will remain locked and monitored by Alfred. He has also placed enough food and water in the cave to survive that period of time. During those 30 days, Dr. Porter and General Slaycroft would travel to the island country of Santa Prisca, run by a hostile drug cartel, and begin more Venom experiments on select individuals, including Slaycroft's son, Timothy Jr. The Venom drug they use on him is upgraded to a chemical injection. Timothy Jr. would fall in love with a young woman in Santa Prisca named Consuela, though the venom coursing through his veins would gradually make him more and more aggressive towards her. Eventually, a surgery is performed on Tim, leaving red scars all over his body. His father opens fire on him with a handgun. The young man has become bulletproof thanks to special inserts under his skin. He also doesn't feel any pain following alterations that had been made to his nervous system. Timothy Jr. has been turned into a macabre Superman. General Slaycroft is just as reprehensible as Dr. Porter is. He has complete disregard for his own offspring. His son is an expendable lab rat to him and nothing more. I'd say he's even worse than Porter, because at least his behavior towards his daughter was somewhat influenced by emotion-reducing drugs, you'd hope. Slaycroft is just garbage sludge at his core. He wants to create his own little private army of super soldiers that he can use to eliminate the so-called filth of the world with. He uses his troops to attack a village of innocent people in Santa Prisca, seeing their lives as nothing more than a training exercise for his men. One of the villagers is the grandmother of one of his meat stick puppets. Slaycroft has him kill her by breaking her neck. He also orders his son to kill Consuela for interfering with their progress, smashing her head first into a wall. Porter and Slaycroft would use hypnosis pills on their super soldiers, having them stand at attention for 9 hours straight. For Dr. Porter, it's a fascinating experiment testing his drugs. For Slaycroft, it's feeding his sick power fantasy, just a grown man playing with his army toys. Throughout Bruce's month-long period in the Batcave, Alfred can hear the sounds of heavy breathing, pain, and even sobbing coming from the intercom on the wall. The 30 days for him probably felt more like 30 years, and he could only imagine what form Bruce was in down in the darkest depths of the cave. When the month is over, Bruce wanders up the stairs like some deranged caveman. He looks like one too, having grown a beard and lost a lot of his body's muscle mass. After a few more months of training and proper eating, he starts fitting into the batsuit again, and feels ready to go after Dr. Porter and General Slaycroft. They need to pay for what they've done to him and what they could do to others. After checking airport flight records, Bruce determines that the two evildoers have gone to Santa Prisca. Bruce and Alfred would purchase a small plane with cash so as not to be traced, and would fly over the island with it, performing reconnaissance. The plane is shot down by a Soviet rocket launcher fired by Slaycroft. Bruce and Alfred both parachute out of the plane in time before it explodes, landing on opposite sides of the island. As Batman, Bruce is forced to take out a bunch of locals that attack him. General Slaycroft would have Alfred captured by his super soldiers and dangles him out of a helicopter. He tells Batman that he will be eaten alive in shark-infested water on the south end of the island unless he goes there and saves him. Batman knows that he's walking into a trap. He arrives at the beach and coldly walks past the Doctor General and his soldiers on his way to Alfred, who has been bound by the wrist and ankles to large wooden posts off the shoreline. Batman would kick the shark, circling Alfred in the nose, and when it circles back, he tears out one of the wooden posts and uses it as a spear to kill it. More sharks arrive, being drawn to the blood, and begin eating the corpse of the other shark in their frenzy. The Dark Knight then tips over a wooden boat carrying 2 locals and has them distract the sharks, assuming they have something that will lure them away. That was kind of a risky move. Suppose they didn't have anything on them. Batman would have killed 2 men just so he could save Alfred and himself. When they return to shore, Batman is offered more Venom pills by Dr. Porter, but the doctor just gets punched square in the face by him. Quickly, Batman is grounded by General Slaycroft's Roidy McRoidertons, and Timothy Jr. is ordered to kill him. The Caped Crusader is no match for the bulked-up, nigh-invincible super soldier. He gets beaten within an inch of his life. Dr. Porter would suddenly stop Slaycroft, though. He wants Batman left alive for one more twisted experiment. Inside the dungeon of a nearby castle owned by a ruthless drug kingpin, there was a large hook attached to a chain hanging from the ceiling. The torture chamber, lined with brick and steel, will slowly fill with water over a span of 24 hours, unless Batman can pull the chain down, opening the 800-pound door, sealing him in. The only way it will be physically possible is if he takes from a new batch of Venom capsules Dr. Porter has created, which are even more potent than the last. Batman explains that he would need more than 24 hours to build his strength to the level required, as well as high-protein food and a set of weights. The doctor gives in to his demands and extends the length of the experiment to 3 days. He wishes Batman good luck as the chamber door locks behind him. Immediately, the Dark Knight begins using the weight plates as a hammer to sharpen the barbell into a tool he can use to scrape away at the centuries-old mortar to remove the stone bricks of the chamber walls to use as counterweights for the chain. Throughout his laboring, he thinks about how easy it would all become if he took some of those Venom pills. I kinda wish this death trap involved Batman saving another innocent person, possibly Alfred again or Consuela had she not died, reflecting the beginning of the story with Sissy. In any case, this sequence is great. It depicts Batman fighting against himself, his addiction, just as much as he is fighting against the clock. He has to prove that his strength doesn't just lie in his physical might, but his intellect and resolve. A huge motivator for Bruce's abstinence from Venom is the revelation of what he became in the Batcave during his 30-day withdrawal period, a rabid, snarling animal of a man with foam coming out of his mouth. This image is definitely the most unsettling of this entire story, the one that sticks with you long after reading it. The weight of the combined bricks is not enough to lift the heavy chamber door, maybe a couple 100 pounds or so too little. So, Batman makes up the difference with his remaining strength and raises it just enough to quickly roll under it before it closes. Dr. Porter has fallen prey to his own addiction to his intelligence-enhancing drug. General Slaycroft believes Porter has become unreliable and turns on his partner, torturing him to learn how to make the Venom steroid on his own. He records all of the necessary steps required and will have them tested before he has Porter killed. Batman crashes through the room's window and begins fighting Slaycroft. Before the general can verbally command his son to join in on the action, Batman knocks him out. As he is untying Porter from his restraints, the doctor is shocked to learn that Batman didn't need to use his pills to escape his death trap. Bitter over Slaycroft's betrayal, Porter uses the recorder to play a soundbite of the general's voice to trick Timothy Jr. into killing his dad. The Dark Knight tries to stop it, but is nowhere near strong enough. Dr. Porter would be imprisoned back at Gotham, and we learn through Captain Gordon that he had gone through an intense withdrawal period from his drug, which caused him to scream for 2 days straight before his entire system collapsed and he died. Karma's a bitch. Good riddance. Batman is partially ignoring Gordon through all of this. The only people on his mind are Sissy and Timmy Jr. He grieves for them both in the cold shadows he inhabits. Man, Dennis O'Neil sure has a way with words. Batman Venom is pretty damn awesome. Like I said at the beginning, it perfectly addresses Batman's limitations as a superhero. I like how it goes into drug addiction and discusses a lot of those difficult themes which we've seen many comics tackle over the years, and I've always found their different approaches to it fascinating. How and why Batman starts using Venom in this story is made believable. You understand the powerlessness he feels, and you don't question his actions, at least not from the get-go. Making a character's decision to start using a substance feel as irrational as possible is important because it makes their entire arcs throughout these narratives more convincing for the reader. They can place themselves in their shoes to a degree, and for anyone who has abused drugs personally or has known someone who has, seeing them reach their lowest points before thankfully climbing back out of it is gratifying and uplifting. Not everyone turns into a raving lunatic foaming at the mouth underground, but you do get the message. Batman Venom has always shared the same space in my mind as the classic Demon in a Bottle Iron Man story from 1979, which I have looked at on the channel in the past. Both comics go into their heroes succumbing to the horrors of substance abuse. Venom takes on pills, and Demon in a Bottle takes on alcohol. The cover of issue 18 of Legends of the Dark Knight even has Batman in a similar position that Iron Man was in during Demon in a Bottle, that state of complete hopelessness. I mentioned how detestable the villains in this story are, Dr. Randolph Porter and General Timothy Slaycroft. They definitely factor into the strength of this comic. It doesn't take much to hate them. Their actions make your skin crawl. They're willing to sacrifice the lives and well-being of their own children to achieve their goals of money, power, and recognition. As terrible as everything they did was, at the very least, you can sleep soundly knowing that both of them got their comeuppance. If I were to nitpick something I don't like about this storyline, I've never been fond of the sequence where Batman has to save Alfred from those sharks. I find it tacky and an unnecessary detour from everything else going on. It doesn't really lead to anything significant either. It could have been axed from the story and nothing else would really change about it. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it would have made more sense to have Alfred captured and placed in that flooding chamber with Batman, giving him an opportunity to save another hostage with a seemingly impassable strength-related obstacle, and redeeming himself after his failure with Sissy, having his intelligence and cleverness pull him through instead of brute force. But that's just me. I also wouldn't have minded if that section lasted a few more pages too, to really draw out the tension. What are your thoughts on Batman Venom? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. If there are any comic book storylines, superhero video games, or supervillain origins you would like to see me analyze and break down in the future, you can nominate them over on Patreon. Any and all support over there goes a long way in helping me continue to thrive on YouTube. I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, and always stay nerdy.